StrayAllDay.com.
You're now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques, all underneath the umbrella of one unifying philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is we are closing out our series, not closing out the show itself, but our series here on how winners think. Today is episode 6 in this series. Before we get into it, I'll remind you all of two things. First of all, my daily motivation and Monday motivation messages guaranteed to have you focused, sharp, and on point to start your day or your week, respectively. All you got to do is be a member of my texting community. It is free to join. Once we start sending those messages out again, you'll be getting them straight to your phone just as you would any other text message. Text me at my number 305-384-6894. Secondly, Work on Your Game University. This is the place where you get to work with me directly, where you get to go deep into the vault of what Work on Your Game has to offer and also what you have to offer, because it's going to get brought out of you. The best, that is going to get brought out of you through working directly with me. The way you do that is as a member of the university. Just go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. If you know it's time for yourself to get a coach, if you understand that every high-level performer out there, every high-level performer you can name, you understand that they all have coaches, and you understand that it's time that you joined their ranks, the time that you started doing what the doers do, go to workonyourgameuniversity.com, and we will take it from there. That out the way, let's pick up right where we left off. We're on point number 16. The topic again today is we're on part 3 of our series, How Winners Think. 16, I acknowledge and celebrate my progress and successes. Now, this might be one that some of you may hear and think, well, that one kind of goes unsaid, right, Dre? You don't really need to mention that. You acknowledge and celebrate your progress and successes. Who doesn't do that? Well, let's talk about it. A lot of people don't do it. Although winners are always on the prowl for their next success, they also have to understand, and true winners do understand, the value of acknowledging and recognizing their current success. So even though I'm already going to work on the next goal, I am going to take a moment or two and acknowledge and affirm myself for the achievement of the current goal. I understand the value of acknowledging and recognizing success. Understand that the way that the subconscious mind works and the way that the law of attraction works is that anything that you acknowledge and recognize, the bigger that thing becomes in your mind, and the more likely you are to do things that lead to it, and the more likely you are to experience that energy, which means you're going to do things that lead to the experience of that energy. In other words, when you recognize success and achievement and accomplishment in your own life through your own actions, the more you recognize those things, the more things you will subsequently do that lead to feelings of achievement and success and accomplishment. You will do things that lead to that feeling, and you will find more ways to experience that feeling again, because again, anything you focus on, you create more of it, and anything you ignore, you basically diminish it and cause it to leave out of your life. Therefore, on the flip side, then, by deductive reasoning, anytime you are achieving and accomplishing, yet you are not acknowledging or recognizing your achievements and accomplishments, your achievements and accomplishments will slowly go away, diminish, and fade. In other words, you will achieve less in the future if you're not recognizing the achievement that you got in the present. Whatever you pay attention to, you get more of. Whatever you ignore, you get less of. All right, most people understand this and accept it. Therefore, even as a winner who's always looking for the next win, you always have to be looking for, how do I celebrate the win that I just got? How do I, not looking for, but you have to be cognizant of celebrating the win that you just got. The more you recognize anything, the more likely you are to do more of the thing that you just recognized, whatever it may be. Even if it's a negative thing, if you recognize more of it, you're more likely to do it. You're walking up some steps and you keep telling yourself, do not trip up the stairs, do not trip up the stairs, do not trip up the stairs. You're increasing the likelihood that you're going to trip up the stairs, because the human brain does not recognize negation. So if you say don't do a thing, then what the subconscious mind picks up is the object, the thing that you mentioned. It didn't recognize the negation of don't do it. It just recognized that you said the thing. So you're going to trip up the stairs because that's what you told yourself to focus on. If instead you said walk smoothly and gracefully and calmly up the stairs, then that's the object, and that's what the subconscious mind is going to pick up on. So winners understand this whole concept of getting more of what you focus on, and they do take the time to acknowledge themselves and to celebrate progress and success on an ongoing basis. Now, again, while the celebration or parade or party may only be one day, it is still a celebration or parade or party. That is the recognition. It's like a sports team goes out and wins the championship, and they will celebrate in the locker room, and there's the champagne flowing and all of that stuff. And then they have the parade maybe a couple of days after that, and then all the players go their separate ways, and they go to the off season. They start getting ready to win the next championship. So any team that has won multiple championships in a row, that's pretty much what they did. They won the championship, and then they have their little celebration. But then eventually they get back to work. Usually get back to work pretty quickly if they're going to win the championship again. I told you the story earlier in the series of Pat Riley when he was coaching the Los Angeles Lakers. They won the championship, NBA championship in 1987. Then they won it again in 1988. And each time that they won, Pat Riley basically guaranteed during the celebration of the current championship in which they were celebrating, hey, we're going to win another one. And he put the pressure on his players. And the reason that he was doing that was to let them know, hey, yes, we're going to celebrate that we won. But at the same time, don't forget about the next one. All right, there's another season coming up next year, and we got to do this all over again. And I'm putting the pressure on you all to perform at the same level again, the way that we did this year. And that's having your eye on the ball or keeping your eye on the ball to get the next success, even though you are still celebrating the current success. To give you another example of this that kind of didn't go so well, when keeping it real goes wrong, so to speak, in a tongue-in-cheek type of way, was the 2006 Miami Heat. So down here in Miami, they won the championship over the Dallas Mavericks. They won 4-2 after losing the first 2 games of the series, and they went and won 4 games in a row to win the championship behind this young star by the name of Dwayne Wade. And the Miami Heat team, many players who played on that team, it was a veteran, much older team. There are a lot of players on that roster who were very old players. I think the only 2 young-ish players, like under 30 players who were in the rotation on that team, if I'm remembering correctly, were Dwayne Wade and this guy named Udonis Haslem. I think they were the only guys in a rotation who were under 30. Everybody else was older. It was a much older team, very veteran team. And that next season, actually, let me tell you what happened the next season, then I'll tell you what I heard. The next season, the Miami Heat went to the playoffs. They made the playoffs. I believe they were the 4th seed in the Eastern Conference, if I remember correctly. Doesn't matter what seed they were, but they had home court advantage in the first round of the playoffs. They played against a team called the Chicago Bulls. This is not Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was gone by this point. But the Chicago Bulls swept the Miami Heat 4-0 in this first round series. And this is the year where the Heat are defending their championship. So they came back after winning the championship, and they got swept in the first round the following season. And I've heard players who played on that team talk about what happened after they won the championship in 2006. And they all have said, the ones I heard talk about it to a man, all said, we partied so much after winning that championship. They did so much celebrating after winning that championship that it seems like, I'm adding this part, seems like they forgot to get ready for the following season because they came in the next season completely flat. And that team got their asses kicked in the playoffs. And while I'm talking about it, let me see if I can pull it up. I will pull it up, and let's find out what happened to the Miami Heat that particular season. So we go back and we can find the year-by-year records. So 2006, they won the NBA Finals. They lost in the first round the following year. So they won 52 games in 2006. That year they won the championship, which is not even that amazing. That Miami Heat team that won that championship was not that great of a team. They really weren't. They were actually better in 2005. But anyway, won 52 games in 2006. In 2007, they won 44 games and they lost 38 games. They finished first in their division. They lost in the first round, again getting swept in the first round by the Chicago Bulls. So let me pull up what happened here because I want to see what happened in this series. And just looking at their roster was, they got a little bit younger the following year, but a lot of these players who were the younger guys, they weren't even really playing, a lot of these guys. Let's see. We can find out what happened in the playoffs. If I can find their games, play-by-play, salaries. No, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Lost. All right, 2007 NBA playoffs. Here we go. So Eastern Conference, first round, Chicago Bulls over the Miami Heat. All right, here we go. So Chicago Bulls over the Miami Heat. So the Bulls won the first game by 5. They won the second game by 18. They won the third game by 8. And they won the fourth game by 13. So these were not really close games. They pretty much beat the shit out of Miami Heat. Miami Heat didn't really have anything for them this year. The point being, they were spending so much time celebrating the previous success that they didn't think about the next success. I digress here. Let's move on to point number 17. Topic once again here today is how winners think. Number 17, I master the basics and fundamentals of my game. Winners understand that they need a solid foundation upon which to build anything that they do. Winners understand this, that if I'm going to be successful, I have to build on a solid foundation. And the foundation, folks, is always mastering the basics and the fundamentals of whatever game you happen to be in, or the principles of any game you happen to be in. If you're playing a sport, for example, every sport has a clear set of fundamental skills that should be mastered before you get to doing any type of fancy stuff. So if you're playing basketball, for example, you need to understand basic footwork. You need to know how to make a layup. You need to know how to dribble the basketball, how to pass the basketball, a bounce pass, a chest pass, an overhead pass. You should understand it. You should understand how to grab a rebound, turn, pivot, and throw an outlet pass. You need to be able to make a layup with either hand, your right hand or your left hand. And you probably want to learn how to shoot the basketball the proper way, even for a free throw, if not for a jump shot. These are basic fundamentals of the game. You need to understand footwork in terms of playing defense, how to coordinate dribbling the ball with actually moving your feet, and then the coordination of dribbling and footwork into a shot, such as a layup or a jump shot. You need to understand movement on defense and also 5-on-5 principles, such as how to move about the floor when there are 9 other players on the court, because you have 4 teammates on your team, you have 5 players on the opposing team. So these are all basic fundamentals of basketball that you should learn when you play. Interestingly enough, there are players who play all the way up to the professional level who do not master all the fundamentals that I just listed. So sometimes players are so talented that even without the fundamentals, they're even able to make it to the pro level. And I'm giving you that just as a caveat, but I'm helping you. Also want you to understand, do not bet on yourself being so talented at what you do that you can still be successful without the fundamentals, because eventually that lack of fundamentals will come back to haunt you if you don't have it in place. If you are playing a sport like, let's choose another sport like boxing, which I don't know at an expert level, but I've been trained enough to know the basics in boxing is, first of all, the footwork. It's the weight distribution, having your weight on the back foot or your weight on the front foot. It's being able to throw a jab and being able to throw a power punch. So depending on if you're right-handed or left-handed, your power punch could be your right hand or your left hand, and the jab is going to be the other hand. Proper positioning, learning how to play defensive techniques in boxing, conditioning, and several other things that are the fundamentals of boxing. If you don't master those, again, you could be talented enough to still be somewhat successful, but eventually you're going to come up against someone who has just as much talent as you and the fundamentals, they're probably going to beat you. So these are the fundamentals that, again, in every sport you play, there are fundamentals that must be mastered. Any of you who plays a different sport, you know what those fundamentals are. When you are running a businesses have fundamentals. As a matter of fact, there are fundamentals to, again, all businesses that apply to everything, again, that I usually call them principles. Fundamentals of business in general, any kind of business, is that, number one, the most important thing in business is your ability to generate revenue. That's really what a business is the fact that money is being made because there's some exchange of resources taking place. You're giving your customers or clients a product or service or experience, and they are giving you some money in exchange for it. All right, that is the fundamental of business. If you're not doing that, then everything else that you're doing is completely irrelevant. Then the next other fundamental is marketing, is how you position yourself to make this exchange. Because if I'm selling a widget, I decide I want to start selling widgets. Only way I can sell that widget is to market myself and or my product and or my company, so that people who want to buy my widget actually know that I have a widget and that is available, and that they would have to give me this in order to get that. If I don't do the marketing to make sure people know that I exist, then it doesn't matter that I exist. So those are 2 basic fundamentals of business that apply in any business. There's no business to which those 2 fundamentals do not apply. You have to make exchanges, that's the sale, and you have to do marketing so that people know that there is an opportunity for the exchange to happen. So anyone who plans to win in any space, you understand and recognize that there are fundamentals that must be mastered, and you go to work actively mastering those fundamentals. And again, a good thing about playing actually any game you could possibly play is that the fundamentals are usually widely known. They're usually pretty easy to understand what they are. It's not always easy to master them, but it's pretty easy to understand, these are the things that you need to understand if you're going to play in this game. And then your only job is now just go into the game and actually do the damn work. All right, this is where the showing up every day consistently and mastering the fundamentals comes in. What I've found in all different spaces, whether we're talking business, sports, or anything in between, is that many people simply do not have the mental toughness or the discipline to continue to grind through mastering the fundamentals of whatever game they want to get in. And most people do not have the talent to succeed without solid fundamentals. And this is the main reason why most people do not succeed, because they don't want to master the fundamentals. They don't have the discipline to master the fundamentals, but at the same time, they don't have the talent to be good without the fundamentals. So you see the problem here? All right, this math is not mathing, as they said. So you must be willing to master the fundamentals of whatever game you want to play. Point number 18. Today's topic, once again, is how winners think. Number 18, I keep winners and other success-minded people around me. Winners are very strong. What's the word that I'm looking for here? Very strong, let's just say supporters. This word is escaping me. Very strong supporters of the law of association, which states we become the average of the people we spend the most time with. Winners want to hang around other winners. It's the reason why people who work in certain industries tend to, you notice that many times they tend to date and marry people who are in the same industry as them. Notice that musicians and actors tend to date other musicians and actors. All right, why is this? Because they are attracted to people who think the same way that they think, and people who live a similar lifestyle to how they live. Athletes hang with other athletes. Politicians hang with politicians. Entrepreneurs hang with entrepreneurs. Why is this? Because again, the law of association, we attract who we are. And winners want other people who are winners around them. Winning mindsets, winning behaviors, even the trappings of winning. They want people around them who are similar to them. So winners seek and assemble groups of other winners to be around them. They actively go and seek these people out. And if anyone around them is not a winner, the winner themselves will either make that person become more of a winner, or they will jettison that non-winning individual who could be a loser, or they could just be somewhere in between, but they're not a winner. That person will be jettisoned from the group. They will be removed from the group. Winners understand in their bones that they cannot afford to have losers around them. And they cannot afford to have anyone around them who is not as success driven as they are. And winners understand that their mindset around success is a rare thing. It is not a normal thing, which means they have to be very selective about who they keep around them, simply because there are not so many people here who can relate to their mentalities. So winners will force anyone who has not the same mind to make a decision. Either you have to step your game up so that you can earn your keep to being around here, or you must leave because your energy is not matching the energy of what we have going on here. That's the binary that is offered to anyone who is not matching the performance and the level of the winner. And if any of you has ever been around a person who was playing the game at a higher level than you, this is the option that you were given. Kobe Bryant, when he was asked about his acclimations to the NBA after joining the NBA straight out of high school as a 17-year-old, he said, sink or swim. That was his response. You either sink or you swim. Sinking meaning you can't keep up with these guys who are at a higher level than you, therefore you got to go. And swim is you step your game up rapidly in a very short period of time so that you can survive, and then ultimately, hopefully, as Kobe Bryant did, thrive in the game at this level. But you don't have a choice to be anywhere in between, sink or swim. And another thing you should note about people who have winning mindsets is that they tend to look at things in black and white. They tend to look at things as binaries. Succeed or fail, yes or no, win or lose. This whole gray area thing that a lot of people like to play in is usually an excuse to just give people more time and space to be indecisive and not commit themselves to anything. Winners do not have this problem. Let's recap the last episode in our mini series here, How Winners Think. Number 16, I acknowledge and celebrate my progress and my successes. Again, a winner is always on the prowl for the next success, but they do take the time to recognize and appreciate the current success. Number 17, I master the basics and fundamentals of my game. Any game you get in, there are basics and fundamentals that must be mastered. And if you are coming in working for someone who's already in the game, their first rule of order should be teaching you the basics and the fundamentals of what they want you doing. They're not doing that. They're basically committing malpractice against you and against themselves, because they're going to have you, without mastering the fundamentals, working for them, was going to be a disaster. And there are certain principles that apply. And when I say principles, I'm using this synonymously with fundamentals and basics. They are not changing and they always exist. You need to know what they are in any space that you're in. If you're in business, there are fundamentals and principles of business, such as selling things and marketing. All right, those are basics. Number 18, I keep winners and other success-minded people around me. Winners want to be around other winners. You heard the saying, misery loves company. Well, success loves company too. So winners want other people around them who are also of the winning mentality, because winners understand that not everyone thinks this way, and therefore they have to be selective about who they get in their circles, but they are active about getting those right people in their circles. All that said, folks, make sure you go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Again, if you are serious about becoming a winner and you understand it's time for you to make some changes now and not later, which is what winners do, go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Link is down in the description to this episode. Work on your game. Dre, all